Hi, everybody. I'm Miss Karen at Adams Memorial Library, and I'm here today with our library friends, Rosie and Bryony and Dandelion and Diantha, and they have chosen some books about flowers for me to share with you today. You know, they really like flowers because they all have flower clothing on. So they like looking for flower books, and I like flower books, and so I wore a flower today in honor of these flower books that you can come and check out from the library. I'll tell you a little bit about them today, and then you can come to the library and you can check them out yourself and you can read the whole thing. You can either come down to the children's room and pick them up, or you can always reserve them and pick them up through curbside service or at another library. But the books this week are ALISON'S ZINNIA, written and illustrated by Anita Lobel. Have You Ever Seen a Flower, which was written and illustrated by Shawn Harris. This one is Sunflower Lion, written and illustrated by Kevin Henkes. Sunflower Lion. And this last one is called Sidewalk Flowers. And this one was written by but it doesn't have any words in it. But the story is written by JonArno Lawson, and the illustrations are by Sydney Smith. And you'll see what I mean when we look at this one. But let me tell you a little bit more about them. This one is probably my favorite flower book too. Rosie really likes it, and I really like it too, because it talks about all kinds of different flowers, 26 different kinds, in fact, because it's also an alphabet book. And it starts off with Allison. Allison acquired an amaryllis for Beryl. So here's an amaryllis plant. And Beryl bought a begonia for Crystal. Here's a begonia. Meanwhile, Crystal, after she got her begonia, she cut a chrysanthemum for her friend Dawn. And then Dawn dug a daffodil for Emily. And so on and so on and so on. Emily earned an Easter lily for Florence. Florence found a forget-me-not for Gloria. So each girl finds a flower for a friend, and by the end, goes all through the alphabet, and then you can see what happens at the end. What happens to the last person, and who does she buy a flower for, or find a flower for, or grow a flower for? Lots of different ways to give flowers to friends, illustrated in this book. So if you need some ideas about flowers, or if you want to draw some pictures of flowers, this is a lovely book for you to learn about some new flowers, see some new flowers, and give ideas about flowers to give to friends. This one is called, Have You Ever Seen a Flower? And I'm sure you have. I'm sure you've seen lots of flowers, but this girl wants to know, have you ever really seen a flower? Really, really, really seen it, really explored it. So she's getting into a car down here. The city is a little bit gray, but this girl and her dog have color, lots of color in their lives, and they're always looking for more. And she says, have you ever seen a flower? I mean, really? Really seen a flower? Really, really, really? Like she's going to? I mean, way down in the clover with your face down in the flower. Have you gotten down on the ground and looked at it that closely? Really close? And have you ever seen a flower using nothing but your nose? Did you ever see a flower through smelling it? So you breathe deep, beautiful scent of a flower. Maybe you'd smell raindrops made of honey, or the knees of bumblebees, or a fancy lady, or dancing babies at the Royal Jelly Jubilee. You think you could smell all those things from smelling a flower? Well, maybe if you really, really, really smell it really deeply, if you look deeply, if you smell it deeply. Have you ever seen a flower so deep that you had to shout, hello, and listen for an echo just to know how deep it goes? You ever talked to a flower like that? Tell a flower how beautiful it is? Say hello and see if you hear the flower talking back. Well, if you want some ideas about really, really seeing flowers, then this is a good one for you to check out. This story only has one kind of flower. It has the sun and the flower and a lion, and that's why Dandelion especially liked this book, because it's about a fellow lion. And all the flowers in this book are yellow. The lion's yellow, the sun's yellow. There's nothing wrong with yellow sunflowers. And this has a lot of chapters in it. In the first chapter, we're introduced to the sun. This is the sun. Can you see it? You can see it. The sun's in the sky. It is shining, and it is bright as a flower. In chapter 2, this is a flower. Can you see it? Yes, you can. This flower is growing. It's growing on the hill. Looks a little like a lion. It kind of looks like a lion. Like its petals look a little bit like a lion mane. What do you think, Dandelion? A little bit like a lion? Well, we'll find out in chapter 3. In chapter 3, this is a lion. Can you see him? Yes. You'll know it's a male lion because it has a mane. See, Dandelion doesn't have a mane. The lion's running up the hill, and he smells the flower, like our friend in this story. This lion really sees the flowers and smells the flowers and likes the flowers. So when you check this book out from the library, you can find out what happens in the rest of the chapters. What else does a lion think about the sun and the flowers? Now this last story, Sidewalk Flowers, is kind of a quiet story. As I said, it doesn't even have any words. You make the story up as you go along, and you can look at the pictures and see what's happening. And, you know, Diantha is quiet too, so she likes this quiet story. But in the story, this little girl is really good at noticing things. She notices flowers everywhere. Her father's very busy. They're out on an errand. He's just trying to get home. Sometimes he has to talk on the phone. He has to do some things. He's not noticing what the little girl notices, because she notices that there can be flowers even growing through the sidewalk. You ever seen those kind? When you're out for a walk, maybe you'll see some, like this girl does. See, they're walking through the city. She stops and looks at different things. She stops to talk to the pigeons, and she sees a little flower there, right next to a parked bicycle. So she picks it. They go to the market, sees some more things, and she notices some more flowers. So she picks those too. And there's some sad things that she sees in this book, but the more flowers she finds, the more flowers she picks, the more flowers she has to share. And the more she sees, the more she finds people and things and animals to give the flowers to. So I just think this is a beautiful story about finding beauty in the world, about looking for small beauties, looking for, sometimes you can see big showy flowers, but sometimes you can just see little flowers too that are working really hard to grow even through a crack in the sidewalk. And if you're like this little girl, you can find lots of people and animals and birds to give flowers to make everybody feel better, because I think flowers are a lovely gift to give to somebody. And books about flowers are a lovely thing to read. So, as I said, if you want to come down to the library, we'll have these in the children's room. You can come down and check them out and find out what happens. And then maybe it'll inspire you to go out and really look at some flowers and smell them and talk to them and all kinds of good things. And maybe give them to a friend. So thank you very much for joining my library friends and me today. And we'll see you next week with some more books. So thank you, everybody. Goodbye.